So there's a critical rule for when we're speaking or listening, a rule that keeps us out of the weeds, and I'm not talking about weeds here on the river. So rule number 10 is know the difference between conjecture and fact. So when you're listening to people or reading something, discern whether that's based on fact or whether that's just somebody's opinion or a theory. And more importantly, and really where the rule drives forward, is when we speak or when we write something, making sure that we're clear about whether this is our opinion, conjecture, a theory, or actual fact-based. I figured this would be a good rule to cover because we're in that season, a season that seems to run longer and longer every year. Conjecture in and of itself isn't bad unless we don't know that it's conjecture or a theory. And so we want to make sure that we spell that out. You know, a lot of times we have a gut feeling that's right. And so we want to share those things. And sometimes there'll be a little hint, so we don't know for sure. And so part of the conjecture thing and knowing that it's conjecture is we can then talk about, okay, what can we do to test that theory? What experiment can we create? What information can we find? So we want to test these things. When we hear something, we want to ask, or even ask the person, is that fact or is that an opinion? What is that based on? I mean, in general, just start asking questions. And as I said, this rule is more about ourselves than about others. So we ask ourselves those questions. Why do I believe what I believe? Is it because of something that I heard or something that I just want to believe because it's convenient? Do I have information? Is there things that I can do to validate it, to test it out? So thinking about this reminded me of a scenario a couple decades ago when there were layoffs at work. And one of the rumors I heard was that a teammate of mine had been laid off. They happened to be on vacation that day, so it just seemed really strange to me. And so I started hunting down the source of the rumor. I went to the person that told me it and I said, all right, where did you hear that from? And then went to the next person and the next person until finally I tracked it down to an individual who just kind of put two things together. The fact that there were layoffs and the fact that my teammate wasn't at lunch that day. So they assumed, well, they must have been laid off and went home. And we had quite a bit of a conversation about that. You had information that I was on a kayak and I was on a river. And so that might have led you or nudged you a little bit from conjecture closer to the fact that I am on Hiawatha Island. And some walnut just fell on the roof over there and scared the life out of me. Hiawatha Island is another preserve from Waterman Conservation Education Center. And so a great little place here. You do need to, no bridge or anything, so you do need to get a kayak or a canoe or something to get down here. Quite a few trails and just really beautiful. I'm hearing a lot of different birds in different migration seasons. You'll see more of them stopping along the way. A lot of history on this Hiawatha Island. I don't have all the details in my head. I'll try to put some links in the description below, but at one time in the 1870s, there was a hotel out here. Then for a time, there was farming and some camps that were out here. And fortunately, once again, a set of citizens rose up to save this space. I think in the 1980s, I believe that's not a fact, and saved this and then eventually turned things over to the Waterman Conservation Education Center. So check it out if you get a chance in the area. Pretty cool place. An example of this is a little over a decade ago. I was working on a customer situation where they weren't getting the performance that they had planned for. And so I'm at the customer shop and we're looking at different things, but not really finding anything. And as often the case is, we're going to have a status call shortly about this. So I decided to get a coffee and use the restroom before the call starts. And on the way to the break room, I run into somebody and they ask, hey, Bill, how's it going? I said, well, I think we're going to look at the network after the call. So I get my coffee and get on the call, and right away somebody goes, Bill, I understand it's the network. I'm like, wait, no. And so that was a case where I should have been clearer about, I don't really have a good reason to believe that it's the network, but that's where we're going to look next. With expertise and knowledge comes responsibility. The more we become an expert, the more people start to respect our opinion and what we have to say, the more careful we have to be about delineating between conjecture and fact. Our words tend to carry more weight, and so with that, we need to be more careful that we're having a theory as opposed to proving it or having actually seen it happen or concrete evidence. So we just want to be careful with that. Now that doesn't mean that if you're not an expert, you can just make stuff up willy-nilly and present it as fact. Some people will say as a result of all this, we shouldn't pay attention to politicians or any public figures, that they just don't do this. They don't delineate between fact and theory. I don't want to be that cynical, though at times I am, but there is an aspect of trying to pay attention to those people in the public that do delineate between that, who are careful enough to just add a few words to say, well, in my opinion.
So do you have any hints or tips for dealing with conjecture versus fact? How do you deal with it? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd like to hear about it. And here's something that's not conjecture, it's fact. I appreciate all of you for being here with me, visiting Hiawatha Island. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, y'all.